My name is Jessica.
And my name is Dustin. We are the Popcorn Poops. Here at Popcorn Poops HQ, we produce a movie podcast and commentary track hybrid that may be synced up to whatever film we're talking about or enjoyed as a standalone audio program.
Today we will be watching the 1992 film Buffy the Vampire Slayer, directed by Fran Rubel Kuzui. If you are syncing this recording up to the movie, go ahead and start the film, and then press pause immediately after the 20th Century Fox logo fades to black.
It's time to start the film. Syncers, press play at the beep after the countdown. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And we're rolling. Now, when you decided that we were going to watch this movie, you had this look on your face like you had somehow won. Or you had somehow defeated me. Why is that exactly?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a very evil look. You had a very specific kind of stare in your eyes and an evil grin that appeared on your face and said, we're going to watch the 1992 film Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because this is indeed your pick.
It's indeed my pick. I'm proud of this movie.
You are. And because we're kind of recording this at the last minute and it's very late at night, we have decided to do something a little bit special with this episode. And I'm going to christen this the first drinking episode of the Popcorn Poops. It only took us how many episodes to totally abandon?
We've done like 3.
Right. So this is episode 4. It's taken us 4 episodes to completely abandon any and all professionality whatsoever. But yeah, so this is the Buffy movie, not often regarded as a good film.
I don't know what you're talking about. Not often regarded by you as a good film.
Okay.
But Luke Perry, is that?
He was in Beverly Hills 90210.
Who does he play in this? I haven't seen this movie.
He plays the character of Pike.
Pike, that's who I thought.
Not to be confused with Spike from the television series, which I'm sure we're going to...
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
We'll talk about it too much, I'm sure.
Probably.
But before we jump into this too much, I'm drinking, just for reference sake, I'm drinking a Suntory, the Premium Malts.
The Premium Malts,
which is a very delicious beverage. What are you drinking?
A Duchess.
A Duchess what? I'm going to make you try to pronounce it.
I can't pronounce that.
I don't think I can pronounce it either. Let me see the glass.
De Bourgogne.
It's a Duchess de Bourgogne.
Oh.
Does that sound okay?
No.
Duchess de Bourgogne. If I could put a little on it.
That sounds much more racist. Good job.
Racist. Okay, I'll accept that. But that's actually a very, very good beer, and I'm drinking
it's my favorite
not
beer.
as good beer. It's
it is in an official Duchess glass also.
That's true. That's why
that makes it taste better.
Yeah. If you were drinking that beer out of a bottle, we'd have
that
issues.
That would be a problem.
That would be a sadness. Although I'm drinking my beer out of a can because that's just the kind of beer it is. But let's talk about Buffy.
Let's talk about Buffy.
Let's talk about this movie that you have decided that we're going to watch.
This is like a 5-minute cheerleader scene, by the way. This is
a
perfect. Written by Joss Whedon.
It sure is. It sure was. And I think that people that are really fans of Joss Whedon might not care for this movie because it doesn't really feel...
Yeah, it's not really...
It doesn't.
Man,
really
what font is that? Southern California, the Light Ages? What does that mean, the Light
font.
Ages?
Well, we missed the opening before the credit sequence where it said...
Oh, it was
Europe,
the Dark Ages?
The Dark
right.
Ages.
Yes. That was a beautiful font,
We did get a proper credit sequence as they were dancing to... what was the song?
I don't know.
Can you get it started? Get it started, y'all. Can you feel it? Can you dance till you just can't dance no more?
That was a good song. And you did a good rendition.
Oh, thank you. So this is the core group of Buffy's friends, and that's
they're all really unlikable.
Did you recognize one of the girls there in her first role? Hillary, Boys Don't Cry, the next Karate Kid Swank.
Ah, this is her first role?
I believe it is. I think this is her first movie.
Which one? What dress is she in? What
she's in the
tacky
far
dress?
right. far right in the back.
Oh, she's the one who's
tacky dress?
chewing gum really obnoxiously with her mouth like wide open.
Well, that could be any of these girls, to be fair. Donald Sutherland's character shows up right now. And
he is the Giles of this movie, right?
One of the girls refers to him as a homeless.
What a homeless!
What a homeless!
That's very Whedon-y right there.
It is, and you'll get these brief instances, these brief glimmers of Joss Whedon's.
Oh, did you see that zoom in? It was like
it was awful. Yes, I saw it. I don't want to talk about it. You'll get these brief glimpses of Joss Whedon, and I think that we'll come to this over and over and over again, but. I think the thing that can be said about this movie up front is that it is clearly directed by someone who doesn't understand Joss Whedon's writing style, and that has happened to him throughout his career several times. I think probably the most famous instance of that, at least for me, is in the X-Men, the first X-Men film.
Yeah.
He did a draft of that screenplay.
Are you gonna talk about the Toad line?
Yeah, that's exactly. you know exactly what it is. Some of the stuff that he wrote for that screenplay comes through. I think I would bet money that he is responsible for the how do I know you're actually the real Wolverine?
Oh, and then he
says
he calls
you're
him
a dick. It's like, okay, that's good. That's something that comes across. But Halle Berry, God bless her, cannot deliver the performance that is needed for that line to make sense. And what she says is, do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning? And she plays the punchline straight.
Really seriously.
The same thing that happens to everything else. And the audience is like, what? Uh-huh. What does that even mean? It took me years to understand that it should have been. It's all in the performance, and the performance is dictated by the direction. And I don't think that Bryan Singer was able to get the performance out of her that needed to deliver that line. Right, exactly. That line really needed.
She should have rolled her eyes and
exactly. Which is the first half is played straight. Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens. It gets fucked up. So you're dead, and that's it. This movie is loaded with that stuff, and I think that is unfortunate because there are some genuinely funny things in this movie that would be a lot funnier had they been directed properly and acted properly and set up properly. That said, Joss Whedon famously walked off the set of this movie and didn't.
He left this movie?
He left the movie. He was so upset with how they were mishandling the script and changing the dialogue and changing everything that he walked off, and he didn't come back to the set, and he's not happy with how this turned out. But having read the screenplay recently, the movie's not that different from the screenplay. There are some key plot elements that are different, which I'll bring up when they come up. But it's more or less the same movie, albeit the direction is a little bit certainly not the way Joss Whedon would have directed it himself, having knowing how these lines are supposed to be delivered, because his scripts tend to be kind of specific, especially in the dialogue arena, and how these smarmy kind of characters that all kind of talk the same, but that's a different discussion. He wants something specific out of these characters and out of these line deliveries, and unfortunately we don't get it. But we've missed the entire first chunk of the movie where we're introduced to her parents and all sorts of stuff. How did you come to watch this movie for the first time?
How did I find this movie? Well, when I was in high school, maybe my freshman year. I was flipping channels one day and I hit some random scene on an episode of Buffy, and I had heard about, of course, I grew up in the 90s, so of course I had heard about Buffy, the TV show, but I never watched it. I didn't really watch much TV ever, but I was just flipping channels and I saw this scene between Buffy and Spike, and which is maybe like one of the middle seasons, and I just was so enamored by it that I started trying to record Buffy obsessively whenever it came on TV, and I had this big stack of VHS tapes in my room, and I Because I loved the TV show much, of course, I went and
Big
looked
stack
up the
of
movie.
VHS. That gives me such a feeling of nostalgia.
Yeah. Well, I did because I was really obsessed with trying to. I wanted the episodes, and it wasn't like you could go out and just buy a collection. I mean, maybe you could have, but I don't. I don't even know if they had them. Did they ever come out on VHS? The TV show?
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe.
I don't know. But anyways,
maybe
it was not
like select episodes or something.
It was
I don't
not
know if
accessible to just go buy it or anything.
I don't think it was ever practical to release an entire season of anything on VHS. So I don't remember that being a thing.
So I would record them and save them because it was the first TV show. No, it was the second TV show that I really got into. Do you know what the first one is?
No. What is the first TV show you really got into?
No, you know. You remember. I was in like 6th grade.
This is way off topic now, but it was Lois and Clark?
Yes, it was.
Oh.
Anyway, so Buffy was the
Dean
second
Cain.
TV show I got into, and I was just obsessed with it. And of course, as soon as I realized that there was a movie, I went and found it. I tracked it down and watched it and was so excited about it. Oh my God. And they had a character named Pike, and I was like, this is definitely what Spike is based off of. Oh my God. Yes. And then
he seems to be in ways, but there are certain key ways that he's not.
In my mind, I was like, it had to be, just by the name alone.
Yeah.
I was like, it had to be an early version of this character. Yeah. And I was disappointed that I knew.
Certainly a prototype.
I knew that they were different actors and stuff, but I tried not to let that get me down. And then I remember like really trying to keep my enthusiasm up during the movie, but being kind of like, oh. And then like
he's not nearly as fun.
Oh, I really love this Buffy movie.
But seriously, do you like this movie at all? Is there anything? How long has it been since you've seen it?
It was probably in high school the last time I watched it.
I watched it very, very recently, in preparation for this, which I do with all of these. But you tend to skip out on the rewatching prior to recording. So a lot of times this just kind of, they sneak up on you and surprise you, and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't.
I really meant to do research on this movie specifically because it was my choice, and I really do love the Buffy universe. It's one of... I mean, the TV show itself, it is the only TV show where I have attentively sat through the entire
series. A little cameo by Ricki Lake as the waitress here.
That's really random.
Yeah.
But maybe not for the 90s.
No, she was in some movies.
It was the first TV show, and I guess it still is the only one, where I have sat through the entire show, like, attentively watching every episode at least twice. If not more than that, except for Game of Thrones, but I rewatch every episode every year, so
yeah,
that's its own world.
So this is, I mean, Buffy is something that's obviously very close to you, and it's not that it's not to me as well. I really love the Buffy TV series, but this is a movie that's just kind of, I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's not. Certainly not a good movie.
No,
it doesn't really do much for me. I don't think there's a lot here. It feels like what was kind of a fun script that had some nice humor in it, had a lot of its personality sucked out of it during production, just by virtue of the fact of being mishandled, maybe in principal photography and in how the actors were directed, and then maybe in the editing process, because they say a movie is made or broken in the editing process in post-production. But yeah, I don't think
why is he holding only a hot dog, like no bun?
Well, we missed it, but they walked in and they emptied out their pockets and probably threw, some change and a paper clip and a cockroach and a button and some things onto the waitress's tray.
And all they got was a hot dog.
And said, "What can we get?" And she was like, "I don't know, a cup of coffee, maybe a hot dog." And when the hot dog came, Pike took the bun and Benny, his friend, played by David Arquette, took the wiener. Oh. And
so Buffy threw her knife at it and
symbolically
sliced his penis in half.
Well, he came over, horsing around, holding the wiener down where his penis is, and it all happens off camera. And I think
we just laughed at penis, like at the word.
We did. We didn't laugh at Wiener though,
No.
so that's
No, that's
we're better than that.
We aren't children.
It happens off camera though, and I think the moment isn't handled very well. But it happens off camera, and it's supposed to be like this super fast, amazing thing that she does, where she cuts the hot dog in half. It's like I can cut a hot dog in half really fast. It's not that hard.
Didn't you tell me that you like these vampires better than the TV show vampires?
I like how they look in this movie better than they look. I'm not a fan of like the crest, the crested,
like the big brow, the wrinkly brow,
Star Trek
forehead.
It
is kind of wharfy, isn't
it's
it?
a little bit. It's a little Klingonian. Can you say that?
Klingonian?
Klingoni. Never mind. Forget I said that.
Klingonian.
We're gonna get hate mail from
some Trekkie.
Trekkers.
Trekkers.
You've
Sorry.
already fucked up. You've gone too far. You're digging a hole.
You know what? But I love Star Trek, so they can just lay off.
Okay, I mean, yeah, but I'm not a fan of the crest. I think the transformation scene, or the transformation sequence, if you can even call it that, in the television series is lame. It's just it looks like a crossfade or like a really lame. I don't even know what the technical term for it is, where it's kind of a lame like morph. Morph effect that they do in After Effects or whatever they used in 1997 before After Effects.
Paint.
MS Paint. Jesus. But no, in this movie, to distinguish the vampires, they have this weird kind of thing going on with their ears. Their ears are shaped sort of like bat wings, and it's kind of cool. I like how the vampires look in this much more than the TV series. But that's one of the only things from the movie that I think is better than the TV series, because of course the TV series is great and I love it. But one of the biggest ones, surprisingly, Kristy Swanson as Buffy, way better than Sarah Michelle Gellar. And that's not because she's great or anything as Buffy.
It's just
because
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I don't like Sarah Michelle Gellar. I never liked her. I think, and I know it's, probably brought to my attention because of the fact that she's in another vampire show, but I think Anna Paquin would have been a really great Buffy.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. Because she totally plays the ditz factor up, and that's majorly a part of Buffy's character. Like, she has to be able to play kind of dumb, and Anna Paquin does that fantastically, but not dumb like unintelligent, just kind of aloof. To or unaffected by things that should affect normal people.
Sure, yeah.
Which is what you need in a supernatural world like this if you're gonna have a heroine who's gonna wind up having relationships with the supernatural creatures of the world. Like, they have to be kind of weird and kind of out of it. And Anna Paquin plays that fantastically. But she also just is more likable, I think. Sarah Michelle Gellar I
don't think she's, even from the beginning, and arguably in the beginning, I think that she is more of this kind of character that Kristy Swanson is playing, the kind of the ditz, the ditzy, bubbly, cheerleader type.
And that, when she, like the earlier Buffy, I totally I tolerate, like, fine.
I don't really care for her one way or the other. It's okay. She's fine. She does fine in the role, but because I don't care for her one way or another, by the end of the series, when she gets really
super mopey,
so mopey, I just have no patience for it. Yeah. I really, really dislike her.
Because the whole time I'm just
character.
Like, I know you've died like 3 times, and I know that you're stuck with all this drama and you've got a sister to take in, blah blah blah.
It's not that it hasn't.
But I like being in this world, so I'd kind of appreciate it if my main character didn't hate it all the time.
It's not that it doesn't come through in the writing, because I think the writing writes her character, and we're talking about the series now more than the movie, but that's fine. I expected that. It's not that it doesn't come through in the character writing and the narrative of the entire series, because you feel that she's probably supposed to feel that way. Like, I get that Buffy is supposed to be kind of mopey and a dark character by the end, and it makes sense that she should be.
Yeah, that character arc makes sense.
But I don't think Sarah Michelle Gellar is a good enough actress to make it relatable. I can't relate to her. I just get irritated with her.
Yeah.
I can't feel anything else. And, you know, the writing be damned, as good as it is. I just can't stomach Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think she's really quite bad in the series. So, I mean, really, saying that Kristy Swanson is a better Buffy
doesn't mean that she's a great Buffy.
It's kind of a by default situation,
Yeah,
better than Sarah Michelle Gellar.
You know, and it's so crazy. We've talked about this before, where Whedon has a problem with casting his lead female.
I agree.
And the thing is he writes such fantastic, strong lead female characters.
I agree with that too.
Fantastic, strong female characters, and I love the worlds that they're in, and their story arcs, their character arcs are fantastic also. But Elijah Dushku, really.
Really.
I mean, she sucked in Buffy, so why would you give her own TV
give her a
show?
No, I agree. So Donald Sutherland and Rutger Hauer in this movie.
I don't know who either of those people are.
Donald Sutherland is this man right here.
The Watcher. But we don't call him a Watcher in the movie,
He's
right?
not called a Watcher in the movie. There are some rules that are different in the movie that they haven't come across yet, I don't think. But he plays a character. Donald Sutherland plays a character named Merrick, who is essentially what the Watchers are, what Giles, the character of Giles, is in the TV show. However, he mentions this later in the movie. The Watcher figure, this character, whenever he dies, his consciousness goes into another child or another human being.
Oh, I don't remember that.
And he's basically reborn with all of his memories.
Man, they're into this, digital zoom?
It's not digital.
Okay.
It's an analog zoom. They're actually doing it in camera. It would look way worse if it was a digital zoom, I promise.
Okay, well, it
not
still
that it
looks
doesn't
bad.
look bad enough. Yeah. That's a technique thing. But
these vampires look more like zombies right now than they do like vampires.
They do, and I think it's because they're dirty and they came out of the ground. And I don't know if they've got the weird bat ear thing going on. They might. They should.
Oh, yeah, they
do.
do.
They do.
Yeah, I like that.
Kind of look like hobbit ears.
I like their ears. Vampires to me have always been kind of like the undead elves, right? Like
if you want to take it there, go ahead.
I mean, media and stuff has definitely over the past 2 decades portrayed them as the sexy fantasy supernatural character, which is what elves are in like your classic fantasy world. So in like the dark supernatural world, that's what vampires are. And so for them to have a weird pointy ear thing kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'll buy it. I guess somewhere in my mind I feel the same way about that, but I probably wouldn't vocalize it.
Why not?
Well, because they're kind of the elves of this world, and the dwarves are definitely the goblins.
Whatever. I'm not ashamed of who I am. You can pretend like. And
Pike, played by Luke Perry, is definitely true neutral. If you want to take it there,
you can pretend like you didn't spend half your life playing D&D, but.
And yes, I can.
But I know
I will
the truth,
continue to.
So.
A little goof up here. You can see David Arquette's. You can see Benny's reflection in a
mirror.
glass.
In the glass. Here, yeah.
Even though he's a vampire.
No, I do like the way they look. You're right. The brow thing in Buffy in the TV show
it's dumb.
Yeah, it is pretty silly, and what a hassle makeup wise too, right? What a pain in the ass. They had to do that every episode. Those poor actors.
I mean, by the end of the first season, they must have been like, "Why did we do
this awful thing?
Yeah.
We should have just given them bat ears. We should have just made them undead elves."
True neutral, undead elf. Or wait, no, chaotic
evil. They are not true neutral.
Chaotic
vampires
evil.
are not true neutral.
I don't want to get into that. I was about to be like, so what are vampires, Girk? They're definitely
on the world.
lawful evil.
It depends which vampire world we're setting this in. In Twilight,
Donald Sutherland, man, she just got out of the car with the character of Merrick, and we're gonna see her mother here, which is maybe the only second time, maybe the only time in the movie that we see her other than toward the beginning.
Who, the mother?
We only see her twice. Totally different character from the TV series. We're meant to feel like Buffy comes from a home where her parents are kind of yuppies, like shallow. Yeah. They're always leaving the house. They're going to parties or whatever they're going to do. They're always telling her not to touch the Jaguar that's in the garage and that kind of stuff. She just walked into the house, and her mother walks in, and you think it's a little turnaround, and her mother's like, "Do you know what time it is?" And Buffy's like, "Oh, almost 10," or she says something, and the mother's like, "I knew this watch was broken," and just walks off. So it's, kind of one of those turnaround moments. Totally not how Buffy's mother is in the TV series, where her parents are divorced and her mother is a very, very motherly figure. Yeah. Very, very much so.
Always on
a loving
her ass.
figure. So much so that, spoilers, when her mother dies in the series, it's a huge deal.
That episode is a what is the name of that episode? I can't think of it. But it's the episode, the one that really affected me, I think, is the episode after she dies, the one where they're doing her funeral and stuff, and it's almost an entirely silent episode. Like, when there is noise, when people drop things and stuff, it's startling. That episode is so fantastic. And it really is emotional. It's
we did just
effective.
Get a glimpse at Rutger Hauer as Lothos, and Lothos is the big bad vampire in this movie, and his sidekick.
He is creeping around a girl's locker room.
He is, and she refers to it. She says, "This is a naked place."
See, there's some good lines in
there
this.
There are, and I agree. I absolutely agree with that. There are some good lines.
This is a naked place.
This is a naked place.
Homeless.
He's a homeless. Was such a homeless. So Lothos, his sidekick, the guy with the really grody hair, the lackey vampire. Do you know who that actor is?
You're asking me?
If I said the name Paul Rubens, would you know what that means?
I would know that. I know the name Paul, and I've heard it before.
It's a book of the Bible. It's a very popular name. Actually, Paul Rubens is Pee Wee Herman.
That's weird.
So yes, Paul Rubens plays the vampire sidekick named in the script, and he's credited in the movie as Amelin. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive that they never say his name. They never ever say his name.
You know what? I feel like
nice little reverse shot of her catching the knife. And by nice, I mean terrible.
I was just, the scene that just happened a second ago where she got into bed, she put on her little white nightgown and she tied up her hair in a ribbon and she got into bed and laid on top of a vampire. In that scene, I was just thinking to myself that it definitely felt more old school Dracula for a minute there than the Buffy show ever gets.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although the thing that I thought you were going to say that I also would have agreed with is that moment right there feels more like something that you might see in the Buffy TV
That's
show.
True
yeah.
Also, but I was just thinking that they don't ever really do that much. Like, and of course Dracula shows up in the Buffy TV show. That's a Halloween special episode, I think, and he's not a big deal, right? She just kills him really easily or something. Yeah,
kind of. It's not very impressive. It's a lot more impressive in the screenplay.
But anyways, though, like that scene was kind of nice though, with her tying up her hair with the red ribbon and stuff.
We get a training montage.
Yes.
So we got a training montage in Hook last week.
Yes.
And we get one in Buffy the Vampire Slayer this week. You think so?
I mean, listen to the music.
Well, this doesn't have a shirtless Robin Williams. A shirtless and shaved Robin Williams. I do like this
Those
sequence
two
though.
adjectives should
it's
not
so,
go with that name.
It's so very 90s, early 90s, late 80s. Feels
Look,
like,
the angry principal checking his watch.
Feels kind of like the Flashdance sequence, the famous Flashdance sequence. I don't know if you know that.
I've never seen that
okay.
movie.
Of course you haven't. Actually, I probably shouldn't admit to have seen that. But Donald Sutherland, the guy who plays the Watcher, I was going to say this a minute ago before we started talking about Buffy's mom. He was apparently not easy to work with on set.
The
Watcher guy.
The Watcher guy?
Yeah. The training guy.
What was his problem?
Standing creepily behind her in this shot.
Yeah, he comes off. Giles in the TV show never comes off as pervy.
No,
never even a little bit.
He's a father figure.
He is a
100%.
absolute. Well, and I mean, her dad's virtually not in the show. Very, very little. And so he absolutely is a father figure to her.
This shot paid for by Nike.
Yeah, clearly. But this guy comes off as pervy.
Apparently, Donald Sutherland rewrote most of his dialogue.
What? Why?
And reading the screenplay, I don't think that's really true. There are some differences. I don't know if he's responsible for the changes between the screenplay and the final product. Right. But Joss Whedon was respectful of Sutherland's abilities as an actor and said that he was talented, but he also said that he was rude and said that Donald Sutherland was, quote, a dick.
That's good.
Which is wonderful. This is a great little scene right here. I like
with the principal.
So we watched a movie together, not on Popcorn Poops, but we watched a movie recently that had this actor in it. This is an actor by the name of Michael Root. Do you recognize him at all?
No.
He's probably most famous for being...
Oh, wait, I do kind of recognize him.
He's probably most famous for being the guy from... I can't remember his character's name, but the guy from Office Space that's always talking about his stapler.
Yes.
But what we saw him in recently was Jersey Girl. He was the quote-unquote
was he
uncle.
one of the mechanic guys?
That always, the city worker always saying like the obvious things, and they're making fun of him all the time.
Say some really mean stuff to him.
Terrible things to him.
Yeah.
But this sequence right here where he's talking about going to a Doobie Brothers concert and eating too many mushrooms or something like that, and thinking that he was a toaster.
The first principal is kind of like him in the TV show.
Is he? I don't remember.
Remember,
him very well.
The first principal is the one who he rips up her transcript when she comes in, and he's like, "Well, here at Sunnydale, we don't look at people's past," and he just sits there and rips it up, and then like he looks at it and he starts taping it back together.
That's right. I do remember that. That's a great moment.
He's like, "Burn down," and yeah, and I feel like this principal definitely is. In a lot of ways, a model for the first Buffy principal.
Alyssa Milano was originally supposed to play Buffy. Alyssa Milano.
I know that name.
I'm probably going to get this wrong. She was the daughter of Tony Danza in Who's the Boss? Is that right?
I don't know.
Is it Who's the Boss or Charles in Charge? No, it's Who's the Boss.
It really doesn't matter to me.
Okay, you would know her from Charmed.
Oh, okay.
She's the girl. Oh, God bless her. She's the girl with too much gum to teeth ratio.
Oh, I got it.
That's what beer does to you kids. There's no filter. Yeah, she was originally set to play Buffy. How would you have felt about that?
What in the movie?
Well, you've watched more. Yeah, in the movie, you've watched more Charmed.
Okay, really, I said I got it, but really, based off of your gum to teeth ratio, I don't know which one that is.
She has too much gum, not enough tooth.
I don't know which character that
is.
I'm not asking you to describe.
Oh my God. We missed a little moment here. That's interesting and different from the TV show, and I think it's cool. I like it. And they're actually discussing they're discussing it right now. When Buffy is near vampires in the movie, she experiences menstrual cramps. Now, that's something that's not in the TV show at all.
And this, I don't know, maybe one of the reasons they took it out is because, again, just him. And the thing is I like it. I like the idea that, that like her woman's body is literally part of what helps her.
The fact that she's a woman is tied, intrinsically it's tied to the fact that she's a Slayer, which, I mean, of course, is part of the mythology of the Slayer, is that it's always a woman. There are other things in the movie that don't cross over into the TV show. The fact that she has a mole above her, like on her shoulder or like above her left breast, which in the movie she has removed, but Merrick knew about, and she was like, "Oh, that ugly hairy mole," or whatever she says. You can actually see it on the Slayer character from the beginning of the movie in the Europe, the Dark Ages segment, pre-credit sequence.
I think I like that kind of stuff. I think it just is world building, and it's I like that it ties it more to the feminist themes that are intrinsic in the Buffy story and in a lot of Joss's stories, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm okay with that. I don't mind it. But honestly, though,
it
one of the
further
things
highlights the fact that the Slayer, the one in the world
is a woman.
That is, the strongest and the quickest and the most able to combat the vampires as a mortal, is a woman, will always be a woman.
But
that's just how it is.
That being said, him talking to her about her period just makes him feel more pervy than he does when he's hanging out in her girls' locker room.
But I understand that, and I think that it's a detriment to this character because he does seem more like, and she calls him out on it.
Who knows? Maybe a character like Giles handling the conversation, it would come because he'd be like stuttering and whoa, you're
exactly. And
right?
that's the thing that I was just about to say, is that you put that situation before a character like Giles, and based on what you know of his character, that's been so well written and so complete, such a complete character over the years. You can see how he would react to that, and it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel pervy, and it feels like maybe the way, a dad, your average run-of-the-mill dad, might react to the prospect of having to talk to his daughter about menstruation.
Right.
Which is something that, maybe your average run-of-the-mill dad, for comedy's sake, might not be too comfortable with. Yuck.
Right.
But,
and so that coming across, it wouldn't feel as awkward as it does in this movie. But in this movie, I don't know. I remember that even from when I was a kid. I remember being kind of uncomfortable with that. Not uncomfortable with the idea that's part of what happens to her, but uncomfortable with him talking to her about it. Just the tone of his voice and his mustache, and I don't know. I'm just not.
His mustache?
I'm not really into him.
You got something against mustaches, sweetheart?
His.
This is a fun little sequence here that ends with Paul Rubin's character, Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he looks like Pee Wee Herman.
Really?
Even through the,
Even through the makeup and the bad wig and the teeth. He ends up with his arm ripped off.
That's unfortunate for him.
And Rutger Hauer gets to say a cute joke about his arm being ripped off after this. And his performance here, I don't think is particularly good, but he does have a line coming up that I was shocked was not in the script. Because the line itself is so... It might be the most Whedon-y line in the entire movie, and it's not in the script, and I don't understand how it's not in the script. So he's reaching through the roof of the car here. Oh, it's after the car stops. So he's reaching through the roof of the car. Pike is going to drive under a low branch, and it's going to knock this character off, rip his arm off. It's going to fall down into the truck, and then in the confusion, Pike runs into a tree, which he's doing right now. And then Amelin, which is the Paul Rubens character, and the two other lackey vampires are going to come up, and he's going to say the line. It's coming up. You ruined my new jacket. Kill him a lot.
Yeah, that's.
Is that not? I mean, is that not like super Whedon-y?
Yeah,
it's not in the script.
That's surprising. What's the proper term? Whedon speak.
Whedon speak. Yeah. I guess that's what it is. I've heard that before. I don't know if it's official.
I'm sure
I don't participate in any message boards or anything about Joss Whedon.
I'm a little surprised to hear that from you.
Really?
I mean,
you hold me in such regard, in such low regard.
I would just assume that you're on every message board that has to do with anything.
I have a limited amount of time on this planet. I'm not going to spend it in such ways. I'd rather be making podcasts about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But yeah.
What was Pike's cute joke? I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it either because I think he's kind of he's kind of boring. I don't know. I don't really think anything that Pike says is particularly interesting. I don't think his performance is particularly interesting. I think he is meant to serve one purpose, and that's to be the bad boy character that can be the rebound for Buffy when her, popular football playing boyfriend decides that she's being too weird and spacey and decides to bang one of her best friends later in the movie. Which Buffy doesn't seem to care about at all. Like walks next to the car, passes the car where they're banging and goes, "That was fast," and then just keeps running away from vampires as though, they
Yeah, well, she's got bigger things in her life to worry about. Fuck him. She does. What does she care about her stupid football boyfriend? She's got to save the world.
I guess that's how it is. The perennial plight of the Slayer. So this moment right here, I guess, is the moment that you're supposed to believe that Pike and Buffy might have something, and then I guess that's good enough for later in the movie when he shows up at her dance wearing tuxedo pants and a leather jacket. But to be fair, she's wearing like a white, almost like a wedding style prom dress with boxing boots.
Oh, good.
So
good.
So that she appears to be, social and prepared to socialize at the dance, but she's also ready to kick ass at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Which comes in handy because this film has to have a climax of some sort, some way or another.
Because
Someone
it's not just gonna be
and someone needs
written into the story or anything.
Someone needs to get Luke Perry's soul patch under control.
I think it's fine.
Really?
Let me look again.
Is it fine? Has a soul patch ever been fine?
Sure.
I will give the Blues Brothers a pass on their soul patch phases. But Luke Perry with a soul patch.
No, it's fine. It was the 90s. Come on.
I was going to give the Blues Brothers a pass because they had soul patches in the 80s. And now you're giving him a pass because it's the 90s.
But this was really early 90s. This was still 80s.
It's anarchy.
This was 80s, 90s. We've talked about this often where the first half of a decade usually is just the decade before it in movies.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
This was 92?
This line right here is great. He says something like, Paul Rubens' character says, "I had him in my grasp," and Lothos says, "You might still."
Because his arm.
Which I think the delivery of the line could have been a little bit better because it is, again, one of those things.
He has a cat. Why does he have... Is he
it's a snack.
No.
Come on. That's something that
They do that in the show,
They
too.
do that
They
in the
gamble
show.
with kittens.
They gamble with kittens. Vampires
so
vampires and demons
terrible.
gamble with kittens.
Oh.
Because they're so delicious.
That's so awful.
And just as I said that, my cat hopped up next to me on the couch.
No. One of our 2 cats.
One of our 2 terrible demon cats.
No, this is the good one.
This is the moment here that Buffy decides that she doesn't need her boyfriend anymore, I guess. Because one of his friends grabbed her ass and she busted him up a little bit. And then he says something like, "You don't touch my thing, I'm going to pop you one," or something like that. And Buffy's
Her boyfriend.
And Buffy's like, I don't need your protection. I don't need you.
I'm the Slayer.
I can punch him myself.
And it did.
And this is maybe the first time that you really notice it, but her clothes start changing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's even said herself, maybe she hasn't said it yet, but she considers herself to have, obviously, a very keen fashion sense. That's how she puts it later in the movie, unless she's already said it. And her dress starts to change into something a bit more casual, and that's like you can see the transformation of her character literally. This character right here, the coach, I think is amazing. I love his character because he is so obviously like a guidance counselor or something like that is pulling double duty as the basketball coach because they need a basketball coach, which is kind of a reverse on what I experienced and we experienced growing up. We went to the same high school where most of our teachers that were sports coaches, like sports team coaches, cared more about the sports team coaching thing than whatever subject that they were, that they had to teach.
Whatever,
It was kind of perfunctory, like the fact that they had to teach English or something, and this guy could also be like the football coach. He cared more about being a football coach than anything else. But this is a case where it's obvious that this guy doesn't know a thing about coaching basketball, but it's something he's been tapped out to do, and he's like probably the guidance counselor because he says things like, it's things about your heart and feeling your heart and your feelings and stuff like that.
It's cute.
In the script, it was actually football. They actually did the highlighted sport was football. Why'd they do that
then? Why do you think? Basketball's easier to.
Oh, this actor right here. Does he look familiar? That's Ben Affleck.
Oh,
that's Batman.
It is Ben Affleck.
It is Batman soon as in next year.
He's really young there.
Very, very young. This is one of his earliest roles, and it's just he has like one line. That's it. You can't even call it a cameo. He's not important
a guy
enough.
On the other team.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to play basketball against a vampire?
I think probably the reason that it's not football is that this might have been cheaper or
that's what I was thinking. It's
more convenient to shoot because it's an indoor location and they can shoot it whenever at whatever time of day they want.
You want to get some real power between your legs.
That's a line straight from the script. And this line, too, where he screams after her and calls her a dyke and says he's going to tell the whole world. The difference is, this is where, plot-wise, the script differs quite a bit in that they end up in a storage yard for parade floats, which doesn't happen in the script as I remember. A lot of this action just takes place on the streets. And they, chase down Benny, they confront Benny, and then Lothos appears, and Lothos has a little showdown with Merrick, which ends in, spoilers, you're about to see it, which ends in Merrick's death. Now, the death itself is the plot point that differs heavily in the screenplay and the final film itself. In the final film, you'll see, as it comes up, that Merrick tries to kill Lothos or tries to stab him with a stake, and Lothos turns the stake on Merrick and kills Merrick with his own stake. In the screenplay, Merrick and Lothos face off one-on-one, and because Merrick is really just a human, despite the fact that he's they don't call him a watcher, but he's a watcher.
But
he is a watcher.
Special.
As the television series would call him, he's someone special. He is reincarnated every time, as he says, with the same memories so that he can train the Slayer and, to fight the vampires, whatever, mythology. In the screenplay, when he faces off against Lothos, he realizes that he can't face Lothos by himself. So instead of becoming a vampire, which Lothos is about to do to him, says something about him, after 100 years of servitude, maybe you'll learn your place. And Merrick's like, yeah, I'm not going to put up with that. And he pulls a gun out and offs himself. He just shoots himself in the head.
But you know what, though? I feel like that is more of what his character would do in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
I would agree. I mean, it's certainly darker than this movie ever goes. But that was, as I understand it, that was kind of a central conflict between Joss Whedon's original script, which I didn't get my hands on. I just got the draft that I think was lightened up a little bit, and that might be why it's so similar to the movie itself.
So maybe his original script is really very different.
Maybe really dark, maybe really darkly humorous, but a lot darker than this movie goes. And maybe one of those leftover remnants is Merrick's suicide. I do like this location, though. There are things about it. I think the parade floats is very strangely. I would equate it to something like, this is really strange. I would equate it to like Batman the Animated Series. This feels like a location that they would use in Batman the Animated Series. Kind of these huge, colorful, vibrant, and vivacious, even like full of life kind of displays at rest, at night, and dead.
Yeah.
Things that are meant to
things that we typically associate with
lively,
happy images,
Yeah.
And instead we're painting them in a very dark and haunting. That when we turn off the lights, that they become creepy.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of like a carnival at night. It's the same feeling.
Sure, exactly.
It's the same
Which is
feeling.
Another thing that I would say that something like Batman the Animated Series utilizes quite a bit.
Yeah, carnivals during the day are happy places where we eat really bad food and beg our parents to spend too much money on very dangerous rides, and at night they're terrifying. So
yeah, absolutely. The character that I guess they've already killed him. We missed the death, but the character that they killed, the basketball player that became a vampire, his name was Grueller.
Okay.
I think that's only the third character in this entire movie that actually has a last name. Gary Murray, the principal, has a last name. Grueller, which I don't think he ever is given a first name. We can assume that Grueller is his last name. And in a really throwaway line toward the beginning of the movie, the principal, Gary Murray, refers to Jeffrey, Buffy's boyfriend, as Kramer. So apparently Jeffrey's last name is Kramer, which is our last name.
It is. It is our last name.
So that's kind of weird and pointless.
It is also weird and pointless.
Oh, this is Merrick's death scene, which is totally different in the screenplay. Like I said, he does commit suicide. And the stuff that he says here...
But I don't like this, him trying to fight the vampire. Like, it just doesn't feel like anything that he would do in this movie. This character isn't someone who takes action in this movie. Like, I don't know. I think he's a pretty dark, creepy, weird old character, and him killing himself off sounds more like something he'd do than tragically dying in a mistake.
His dialogue in this scene is really bad, and I think it was probably a case of him, addressing whatever issues he had with the screenplay and being like, oh, I can write my own dialogue and I'll just say this. And most of what he says doesn't make any sense whatsoever. but it ends up being the catalyst, I guess, for what allows Buffy to be broken from the spell of Lothos at the end of the movie. He says something about when there is silence, like when the music stops or when there is silence, then something will happen or something. But most of what he says is just, it sounds like
nonsense,
bad poetry.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, Buffy is about to be bitten by Lothos because she's under this kind of vampiric, what do they call it in True Blood? Gazing?
No, glamour.
Glamoring, this kind of pseudo glamoring kind of spell. And then the music at the school dance stops, and she remembers what Merrick says, and she snaps out of it, and then she can fight Lothos, which is just totally like fine, I guess. But it's pretty stupid. Let's be real. It's pretty stupid. So she is, like, you can see the stuff that her friends are wearing. All three of her friends here are wearing, it looks like floral pattern blouses and dresses and stuff, and she's wearing flannel. Like, Buffy is wearing flannel. The girl who considers herself to have a keen fashion sense.
Yeah, he's addressing her with her character change. Like,
I mean, it's not just a psychological transformation for her in this movie. They go to some pains to show that it is a physical transformation.
Does the TV show Buffy ever really lose her fashion sense?
I would say so, but I think she moves toward kind of the rough and tumble leather jacket kind of look. I don't know, dark kind of fatigues kind of thing, like maybe a tank top and jeans or something like that. But no, maybe she doesn't ever totally lose it, because when she's being social, she can still put that on.
Yeah.
But I think that, the TV show is long form narrative to me. I consider a serial television series to be long form narrative, and film, I think, in some ways is short form narrative. So in this, it makes sense that her transformation would be more black and white, and it would, you could see that transition from her wearing like really super fashionable clothes to not having a problem, and not even dressing this way because it's more utilitarian, or is that the word? Like functional? Yeah, functional over fashionable. Sure, pragmatic dress. But she's at the point now where she doesn't feel uncomfortable dressing this way in front of her friends, which is, as far as high school is concerned, like the ultimate test, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't care about presenting yourself in front of your friends that way, then
you really don't care.
Then you really don't care. You've truly become this person, or you've truly made that transformation, and that's something I think is kind of universally understood, or should be, at least. For Westerners. But her character is very much the Valley Girl, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but that's a major part of the story of the Slayer story in this generation, though, is that she is kind of a ditz, but I think that's fine, though. I think that's fine, and it's fun, and one of the reasons I like it, we've often talked about people making the mistake of thinking that they're writing strong female characters, but actually they just write male characters with a vagina, and
Sure.
and that is bad. So I like it when my strong female characters are also really feminine. And Valley Girl is a super stereotypical feminine archetype, I guess we could call it. That's a little too classy to stretch a Valley Girl.
Here we can see that Benny walks out of the photo booth here, and the rules that the movie itself establishes, that when she's near vampires she gets menstrual cramps, does not ring true, because they've kind of broken their own rules, because they just passed this photo booth and she didn't get menstrual cramps even though Benny was inside, and heard the fact that she was the Slayer because of the conversation between her and Pike, and now he's going to to come and tell. I don't know if we actually see him tell Lothos and Amelin, but they do come to understand that Buffy is the Slayer, which is very dangerous for her. And they decide to go to the school dance, which leads to the big climax at the end where all the vampires attack the school gym. Exactly. And Pike has decided that he wants to fight the vampires, and Buffy is in a place where she is ready to kind of give this up, and she wants to go to the dance and see this. But like I mentioned before, she does go to the dance in, her dress, but she's also wearing the boxing boots. Yeah. So I think that some part of her is prepared for something to happen. She's okay
as much as she's trying to give it up. She
doesn't want to lose her life, which is a huge part of the character in the TV show, I think, is she's constantly trying to reconcile being a young woman and then having this huge responsibility.
And knowing that she doesn't want to die. Yeah. Like that she, I think a lot of the previous Slayers, from the brief glimpses that we get of them in the history of the TV show, they were more like all out for it, like all about saving the world and dedicating their life to it. And Buffy really just wants to be Buffy, but she does this because she has to, but she really doesn't want to die. And she really, I think that's why it affects her character so much when she does die in the show a couple times. Maybe a little too much, though.
How many times does she die in the show?
She drowns the first time when the master drowns her.
I guess that's right.
And then Xander gives her CPR. Xander?
I'm not sure.
And then what's the next time she dies?
You don't have to describe every time. How many times does she dies? Like at least twice.
At least twice. Hey, I've died twice. Is
right,
in
is
the
in
song.
the musical episode. Yeah. A fun little, not really fun, it's stupid, but a stupid little fact. Earlier in the movie, when she was approached by Merrick in the locker room, in the naked place.
In the naked place.
She's talking about how she doesn't want to be the Slayer, which is actually her second refusal to the call to adventure.
Are we gonna?
We're talking about the monomyth. We don't have to.
Are we going to go
mention him? Don't mention him.
Joseph Campbell?
Oh, you said it. You said it. You said that's it. Now you have to say something nice about somebody.
What?
That's the rule.
What are you talking about?
If you mention,
if I say the words,
if you say the JC, then you have to say something nice about somebody. Say something nice about me.
Why you?
Because I'm here. Hurry, do it. You're wasting time.
You have a nice beard.
Thank you. So much honesty. But sure, yes, yeah, absolutely. I brought it up. I baited you for that, but that's fair. But when she's in that conversation with Merrick about her not wanting to be a Slayer and all that kind of stuff, she says that all she wants to do is what is it? She wants to graduate. She wants to go to Europe, and she wants to marry Christian Slater and
good life goals.
And die.
Okay.
In the series,
I don't even know who Christian Slater is.
He's an actor.
I didn't know then either.
That's all you
in
need
the
to know.
90s.
He's an actor. Broken Arrow.
Okay.
That'll be funny to somebody. In the TV series, she accomplishes 3 of those 4 things. She does not get to marry Christian Slater. This is actually a lot funnier to me. In the script, the 4 things that she wants to do is graduate high school, go to Europe, of course, die, and marry Charlie Sheen.
Oh,
yeah,
I know that name.
Tiger Blood, winning.
He's the one who went crazy. Right?
He's a crazy guy. That's true. That is true. So we totally missed Buffy running across her now ex-boyfriend, who has brought one of her friends to.
That's nice of him.
To the dance, without saying anything to Buffy, and she just walks in and she's asking all of her friends. They're not quite as dickish in the movie. In the screenplay, they're a lot dickier about it, and she actually ends up with a bright red punch like running down her dress in a moment where Jennifer, one of her friends that is at the dance with her ex-boyfriend, is trying to get away from her and rushes past and knocks punch out of her hand, and it runs down her dress, which I think is actually probably a good image.
Yeah.
Like a visual representation of kind of the things that are to come for
right.
Buffy.
It's nice.
Because in the screenplay, it doesn't happen in the movie this way, but in the screenplay, she does end up fighting Lothos in his vampire lair and ends up like jumping into the big pool of blood that he regenerates his power in and stuff like that. So, with the stain on her dress when she jumps into the pool of blood, she probably emerges and the entire dress is red at that point where you can't see the stain. And it's not said explicitly in the script, but I think
that makes sense.
Right,
so.
A good filmmaker could bring that symbology, that symbolism out of that moment or out of those two moments. So the vampires have attacked. I really like that. They've attacked the gym.
They said, well, you have to say it now that they that the vampires are waiting outside the gym door, and Buffy's like, "Oh, they won't come in unless they're invited. It's okay." And she's like, her friend goes, "I've already invited them." What? They're seniors. So it's cute.
It is a cute throwaway line, but then the vampires don't actually come in at this point. They just stand at the door and say, "We want Buffy. Send her out." And it's like, why don't you just
come in and get her?
Yeah, it's like if you want her that bad.
7 of them.
It's a good thing Pike was prepared, though. Which
it's cool. They're giving her time to get all her weapons and stuff, to neatly unpack her bag, to give Pike a kiss.
What do you think of the bun? Do you like her little bun? I like the bun.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah,
the little
I think
bun
it's
is
cute too.
And he gives her a leather jacket.
And then this is when she becomes, I think, kind of iconic to me.
Yeah.
Like this is when the costume comes together. So
she's ripped her dress up.
So she's got the short dress with the leather jacket and the boxing boots and the tight bun on the back of her head, and she looks like a badass. Yeah. This moment right here, you don't really get to see him at all, but apparently Seth Green.
They are doing the classic technique of
one at a time.
Come at her one at a time. That's a good fighting strategy for a group.
Made popular by Ninja Films. This is the moment. So do you see Jennifer and Jeffrey in the car, and she says, "That was fast," and runs away. Mm-hmm. In that scene where she was fighting vampires, Seth Green was one of those vampires.
I didn't even notice which one.
Because you can't really see him. I've done slow-mo through that scene and like paused like frame by frame a number of times, and I can't tell which one it is.
That's fun.
But apparently one of them.
Is that one of the first things that he ever did then? Is be an extra in this movie? Be. Because his role as Oz was...
Also, this is really strange. David Bowie, Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones, and Carrie Elwes from Princess Bride, you probably know him best from Princess Bride, were all set to make cameos as vampires, but they were cut due to time and budgetary constraints. Huh. Really strange.
It is strange.
Also strange because I think David Bowie and Mick Jagger, or at least David Bowie, were also set to play Captain Hook at one point in Hook, which we did last week, which we
also
talked
weird.
about.
So, they were just all over the place then.
It is very weird. And we've talked about Joss Whedon's original screenplay, which actually, had it been produced the way, as I understand it, the way it was originally written, even before the draft that I read, it would tie more directly into... This is a really great Cowardly Lion impersonation that David Arquette just did. Props to David Arquette, which you can't say a lot. So let's take this opportunity to say props to David Arquette.
To David Arquette.
What was I even saying though? Oh, the original script, even before like kind of the toned down, lightened version that I read, was adapted into a comic book called The Origin Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the origin. I've never read it, but it apparently ends with the gym scene right here, Buffy burning down the gym, and it's full of vampires, which is referred to in the first episode of the TV series when she meets the principal of Sunnydale High School, her new high school, and he says, "Oh, you're a delinquent. You burned down your building, or you burned down the gym." And she's like, "Oh, it was full of the termites," or whatever she says. I can't remember what it is. What do you think of the action in this movie?
It's real great.
It's great. It's super great.
Is he playing a violin?
He is.
That's good.
He's actually playing a real song. What's it called? It's a famous piece. It's from Schumann's Piano Quintet in E flat. Allegro Brillante.
Metronome.
This
is he actually playing it?
I don't know about that.
Do you hear?
I hear it. There is a metronome. It's right there on the right.
Okay.
This whole bit right here with Amelin taking forever to die is all improvised, apparently.
For real. He has gloves on.
Oh, yeah. I do like this. I think this is pretty funny.
The long death
The long death. Kicking the wall and shit.
Yeah, it's cute.
That was all improvised, and you can actually see Christy Swanson when she looks at him when he starts doing it. She turns back around and she's like smiling, and she has to straighten up real quick. So I imagine that was like a one take kind of deal where he just did it, and they were like, "Yeah, we're keeping it. It worked."
It was cute. Good job, Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the stuff that he splashes Benny with. It doesn't look. It looks like it came out of a flask, so you can assume that it was some kind of alcohol. But I guess it's holy water.
Gotta be.
In the screenplay, Buffy actually uses holy water. She earlier in the film, she takes a 6-pack of Perrier to a priest, and she's like, "Can you bless this for me, please?" And I guess he does it. It's kind of a cutaway, moment.
Okay, cute.
Yeah, it's cute. But she ends up using it later in the gym. She pulls one out and like sprays it around her, and all these vampires retch back, and they're like, "Oh my god!" But it of course it fits with her character because it's not just holy water; it's Perrier.
Here's the scene where she's recalling Merrick's words. So he was like prophetic or something.
I guess whatever it was stupid. I think that was, unless like the shooting script had all of the changes that they planned on doing, which I don't think that was the case, because as I understand it, the changes happened a lot on set, which is why Joss Whedon ended up leaving the set and not coming back. So I imagine the stuff with Merrick was shot before this stuff, and whatever changes they've made there, they just decided to tie into this stuff right here. And this is a nice little callback to her keen fashion sense.
And she sprays hairspray to catch him on fire.
Which doesn't really do much to him, but in the screenplay, all of that, little action sequence right there, if you can even call it that, happened in his
standing still.
Happens in his lair, and when she sprays him, his face and head actually catches on fire. Like actually catches on fire. He puts his head out in a pool of blood and comes out, and his hair is all burned off, and he's just like totally inhuman. Like his face is burned off. And then when he busts into the gym, like flying through the air and screaming and like a really dark, evil entity instead of
this like joke that he is in this movie.
Yeah,
because he just bust in right now, and he kind of looked like the Kool-Aid Man. So
he's got a katana.
Why?
I don't know why he has a samurai sword.
Well, clearly.
He's well-traveled.
A samurai.
Sure. That must be what it is.
Clearly.
So they have
I could never hurt you as I put my sword to your throat.
I don't like his mustache. You said something about Merrick's mustache earlier. You're not a fan of mustache?
I'm really not. I'm sorry that. Don't pretend like this isn't something we've had fights on and off about for, more than a decade. So, no, I'm not a fan of mustaches. Not really.
I like this.
They're kind of grody.
I like this right here where she's fighting. She's combating Lothos's samurai sword with the flag of California.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is kind of like a rah California kind of thing. No, I can dig that.
That's cool.
That's pretty
sure,
funny.
Sure, go California, whatever.
But this sequence right here is so much cooler in the script where he's like
they're fighting.
He doesn't walk. He's floating through the air the entire time. Like he's flying through the air and he's throwing her across the room and screaming bitch at her and stuff like that.
It would have been a pain to make him fly. It
would have cost more, that's for sure.
Make him act and make characters act around him.
They changed this line to she stakes him, and in the screenplay he says, funny, I thought it would hurt more. So it's kind of a sad, kind of pseudo-funny thing. And in the movie, she stakes him, and he goes, now I'm really pissed. and then he dies. So we're closing in on the end of the movie. I gotta say that I do like the ending of the screenplay more, at least the screenplay that I read. Again, as I understand it, the original screenplay had her burning down the gymnasium. In the version that I read, after Buffy and Pike ride off into the sunset, there's a scene after that where
it can be the sunset.
Her friends are the sunrise, rather, not the sunset, the sunrise, where her friends are talking about where she is and what she's doing and why she ran off with Pike, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know where she is. Who knows? She ran away." And then it cuts to Pike and Buffy, like at the entrance to a big, like, old castle. And Pike is talking about like his trepidations about going in. And he's like, I don't know about this. And Buffy's like, I thought you said you weren't chicken. I thought you were cool with this. I've got a hunch about this one. We can do this. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And she, takes the giant knocker on the door and bangs on the door. And, the camera pans up at the full moon and it cuts to credits, which implies that Pike and Buffy are
off fighting evil together.
Right, fighting
that's
evil,
cool.
wherever the wind takes them.
Yeah,
that's cool. Off into Europe, fighting ancient vampires in these old castles, and stuff like that. They're on their own adventure, which is cool. You take it from this kind of setting where it's vampires in modern California, and they seek their own adventure, which takes them to more traditional locations, I guess, for vampires to be. I like that ending. I think it's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's fun. But here, is this where we end, right here in the gym with a slow dance?
No, we end right here with the motorcycle firing up and them riding off they don't ride off into the sunrise, but the sun is coming up. But we do get a credit sequence, like when the credits start rolling, we do get to see kind of a newsreel of the reactions to the vampires showing up, which they don't really address exactly what happened, I guess, because which would have been really interesting to me if they had done exactly what the screenplay did, and that's that in the screenplay, and you can see them starting it right now. What did they say exactly? They were biting people.
They had fangs.
They had fangs. Okay, so they do they don't. I think they don't say that.
I think he just said they were Republicans or something like that.
Oh, like young Republicans. Yeah, it's a funny joke. So they don't really say that they're vampires. In the original script, the news report here that actually happens refers to them as crack addicted gunmen.
Okay.
who were shooting up the school, which I think could have very well made it into the final version of the movie, because at this point it was only 1992, pre-Columbine and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But had it made it into the movie, that would be a really interesting relic, I think.
Yeah.
For today,
Pre-Columbine.
You look at that, and in
now
this
we can't say that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Like, it's in this post-Columbine era, post-9/11 era. If you talk about, in a comedy, if you introduce the concept of gunmen at a school and students
no one
into a
thinks
comedy,
it's funny.
it's not funny. No, it's not funny. It's too real. It's happened too much.
Yeah.
So, some part of me kind of wishes it had made it into this movie, if nothing but for the historical relevance of it.
And here's Pee Wee Herman dying some more.
Dying a lot, as he might say. So, what did you think?
I mean, it's awful.
You didn't really watch it that closely.
I didn't really watch it that closely. We were
spent
talking
a lot of time talking about
it.
the TV show.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I watched it enough to remember that. Yeah, it's bad. I still don't feel bad for making you watch it, though.
You had this look in your eyes when you decided.
I love Buffy. It's necessary to watch if for nothing else, just to get to talk about the Buffy show. Okay, so who's your favorite Buffy character? Screw the movie.
I like Pee Wee Herman.
No, I'm not in the movie.
I know. Okay. Favorite Buffy character is Giles. Always has been. Always will be.
Yeah, of course. Second favorite character?
Xander.
Xander, that's a good choice. It's a
I like
solid
Xander
choice.
a lot. He's funny.
I
relate to him. Yeah.
Yeah, of course you do.
But dead last is Buffy.
Yeah, dead last.
Dead last.
Dead last is Buffy. Willow's my favorite.
Willow's great.
I love
She's
some
probably
Willow.
third for me.
And then second is probably Spike. I just love him. Spike post Drusilla, maybe when Spike gets the chip. I love that part, because then he's really fun to be around.
Watch the TV show. Don't watch this movie.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Unless you're syncing it up to our podcast, in which case, please.
Right, yeah, then you should
do it
watch
every day. So that's probably going to bring us to the end of the fourth episode of Popcorn Poops, which is a drinking episode. We've had a little bit to drink, so this probably was a little more off the rails than usual. Please forgive us. You can find us online at our blog at popcornpoops.blogspot.com. You can also find us on Twitter at popcornpoops. You can send us an email too at thepopcornpoops@gmail.com if you have a question or a suggestion for the show. And individually, you can find us on Twitter. My handle is Dusty Cram Cram.
And I'm Jessie Casper.
Also, like us on Facebook, find us on iTunes, and wherever else you find podcasts. Leave us a rating and a review, especially if you like us, and all that kind of good stuff, and all of that pluggy kind of shit that you have to get out of the way. Yeah. Plug. But yeah, thanks for joining us again, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye.
We are the Popcorn Poops.